Good morning, good day, and good evening to all our attendees joining us for today's latest Data Science Central webinar. I'd like to start our event off today by thanking Angus for sponsoring today's event. We appreciate their support of the Data Science Central community, and we are honored to have them sponsoring today's webinar. I would also like to take this opportunity to mention and show our appreciation for some of our other recent sponsors, including Cisco, Hortonworks, Oracle, Teradata, Pivotal, and TIBCO, to name just a few. These past webinars are available on demand at datasciencecentral.com. If you've not had the opportunity to view them, I would encourage you to take a look, as they do provide some very useful information. Today's webinar is entitled Predictive Analytics, Rethinking How You Process Your Big Data. And before we begin, I'd like to just briefly review the format of today's webinar. Today's event will be approximately 1 hour long. We have two panelists that I'll introduce to all of you in just a few moments. We should have about 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A following the presentation, and this event is being taped and will be made available later on this afternoon. I would also like to encourage our attendees to provide questions throughout the presentation. We will be reviewing them and presenting them on your behalf during the Q&A portion of today's event. My name is Tim Madison. I'm one of the co-founders of Data Science Central, and I will be your host for today's webinar. I'm very pleased to introduce today's speakers, Michael Valilli and Bill Sheldon, both of Angus. Michael is a senior data scientist at Angus with over 10 years experience in statistics and data mining. He conducts end-user software training and provides consulting services within Angus. Michael has been involved in projects such as telco churn and volume forecasting, with additional strategy creation to determine the best approach to effect optimal retention. Bill is the Chief Solutions Officer of Angus with more than 20 years experience in sales and marketing. Prior to joining, he was the Vice President of Marketing Solutions at Paradise Analytics, a multi-channel marketing service agency, as well as Chief Operations Officer for CFM Partners, a leading provider of software as a service compliance management solutions. Welcome to you both, and thanks for being with us. We're looking forward to your presentations. Newer, faster, better. The tools that are coming to the big data market seem to reflect this quick descriptor. One such tool which provides high-performance business and quantitative analysts the ability to construct process flows visually and interactively, from data extraction and preparation to modeling and model deployment, is a data mining and predictive analytics software known as KnowledgeCORE. With the flexibility to code in languages of SAS, SQL, and R, or not to code using pre-built functional nodes for automated code creation in the language of SAS, this new tool can enhance the user experience and productivity while staying within a single application without having to export models and data to other environments. In today's webinar, we will discuss how this new tool will change your workflow as you learn ways in which you may rethink how you currently process your big data. So Bill, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can begin as soon as you're ready to go.
Great. Thank you, Tim, for the introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you all for attending today's webcast on rethinking how you process your big data. As Tim said, my name is Bill Sheldon, and I am the Chief Solutions Officer here at Angus. I'd like to start with a quick overview of Angus software for those of you who may not be familiar with us. We've been working in the predictive analytics space for more than 20 years. We provide a suite of software products for the end-to-end data mining process and the development and deployment of advanced predictive models. We also provide professional services for clients who want help with predictive analytics, as well as managed services for clients who want us to execute predictive analytics solutions on their behalf, but don't want to invest in the specialized skills or tools required to implement those solutions. While there are many functional applications for predictive analytics in general, and for our toolkit in particular, we focus primarily in the areas of risk management, marketing, and sales. Finally, our mission is to make predictive analytics easier to use and more accessible to a broader audience, from the advanced statistician through to the business user. We hope you will have a better sense of how we help customers achieve that mission after today's discussion. In this webcast, we'd like to talk about some of the trends we are seeing in big data and predictive analytics, how we think those trends are shaping the industry, and more importantly, how they are shaping our product roadmap as a vendor to the industry. We will also share some thoughts around potential considerations to keep in mind when selecting a predictive analytics platform to support the deployment of these capabilities across your organization in today's complex big data environment. Michael Vallely will then give you a demonstration of our latest product release, KnowledgeCORE, which provides companies with an end-to-end predictive analytics platform and helps address some of the challenges associated with deployment of predictive analytics in today's complex environment. Finally, as Tim mentioned, we will hope to leave some time for any follow-up Q&A. So thank you again for your attendance and participation today. Let's get started. There's no doubt that big data and predictive analytics is hot. Everyone is talking about it. Many have already implemented it. Some, like financial services, have been doing advanced analytics for decades and are doing it well. Others are just starting to figure out how to incorporate it into their culture, their roadmap, and their business processes. Doug Lanny from Meta Group was talking about the 3 V's of big data back in 2001. And in 2002, Billy Beane and the Oakland A's were using predictive analytics to get to the playoffs with one of the lowest payrolls in Major League Baseball. And finally, in 2011, McKinsey declared that big data would be the next frontier for innovation, competition, and productivity. And IBM began talking about the 4 V's of big data and solutions for a smaller planet, and we were off to the races. Since then, the market has grown substantially. Markets and Markets estimates that the predictive analytics software market will grow at a compound annual growth rate in excess of 25% over the next 4 years across almost every industry. The big data market itself is estimated to grow at over 50% CAGR for the next several years. So however you define it and measure it, big data and predictive analytics are big and getting bigger. Our assessment is that the opportunity today to take advantage of big data and predictive analytics to drive significant improvements in business productivity has never been greater. And at the same time, the ability to execute has never been more challenging. Here's why. We see 4 key trends driving the market for predictive analytics today. First, the growth in big data. It's no surprise to any of you that there is far more data than ever before. The buildup of data from various structured and unstructured data sources such as social media feeds, transactional records, CRM data, and a variety of other sources is creating about 2.5 quintillion bytes of data daily. The Internet of Things will be the next mega technology trend. Estimates are that there will be more than 28 billion devices connected to the Internet by 2020. By then, the total volume of data will grow to more than 40 zettabytes. I'm not exactly sure how big that is, but it starts with a Z, so it can't get much bigger. Second is the expansion of predictive analytics across multiple industries and across multiple functional areas and use cases within those industries. Again, according to Market and Markets research, banking and financial services are the largest consumer of predictive analytics today and expected to continue to grow at a rate of about 20%. But interestingly, manufacturing, sports, and healthcare are the fastest growing verticals with CAGR projections over 38% between now and 2018. Every industry is seeing opportunities to apply predictive analytics for competitive advantage. Thirdly, the proliferation of technology in the marketplace. If you compare analyst research reports such as Gartner and Forrester over the last few years, you'll see that from one year to the next, the landscape of vendors changes, sometimes dramatically. Platforms are being created to cater to different programming languages, specific use cases, select industries, and all ranges of analyst skill levels, including machine learning. There was over $500 million of venture capital invested in 2014 into predictive analytic firms. And fourth, being driven foremost by the growth in data and the expansion of use cases, is that there is now a skill shortage of the traditional data scientists with advanced analytic skills. Companies are struggling to acquire talent in this area as demand outstrips supply. Additionally, the gap in experienced managers that have the skills to take advantage of predictive analytics and big data is also becoming larger. We've been in this business for a long time, and we've seen the landscape change significantly and quickly over the last several years. So let's look at each of these in a bit more depth, starting with the growth of big data, and talk about the implications for your analytics platform and tool set. I'm sure all of you have seen IBM's definition of the characteristics of big data, the 4 V's. There are multiple other variations of the V's out there as well, such as the aforementioned Meta Group framework for big data. Whether you use a 3V, a 4V, or 5V framework for big data, there are clearly multiple challenges for firms attempting to manage big data and to leverage this data for predictive analytics. It's not just about the data volume, though. Clearly, this is a challenge for firms to maintain, manage, and analyze. More data are being generated from every stage of the value chain, from inbound logistics and procurement to marketing automation, CRM, and social web interactions. It may surprise you to know that more than 90% of these data streams are unstructured. To that point, the variety of formats the data comes in is constantly evolving. As the number of data formats grows, the cost and complexity of integrating these new data formats into existing modeling increases. New rules, data integration, and management processes must be developed and integrated into existing processes. Managing complex forms of data can be frustrating as companies struggle to find value and more accurate data processing tools to apply to all their business advantage. Data veracity is also a challenge. Is our data correct, and can we use it for predictive analytics? Is it complete? Is it consistent? Is it accurate, and does it contribute predictive value to our business processes? As we become more dependent on data-driven decision-making, we need to have confidence that the underlying data is accurate. And finally, the fourth V, velocity, simply refers to the speed at which data enters your organization. How can I use the most up-to-date data to inform my analytics? If I'm a retailer or a call center, do I want my sales agents recommending products based on the model that was built with data from over 6 to 12 months ago? Or do I want to use real-time data to determine the next best recommendation? Maintaining predictive models in a high-velocity, multi-channel big data world can be a challenge. So we're going to pause here for a moment for one of three polling questions and just get a quick sense from the audience which of the four V's is currently the biggest challenge in your organization for those of you that are working with data and predictive analytics today. If you wouldn't mind, take a few minutes, select and hit submit, and we'll see the results momentarily. Okay, we're going to move forward in just 2 or 3 seconds here. And the winner is veracity, accuracy of the data. Not surprisingly, this is we find a common issue today, given the variety of the sources and the different formats. Being able to maintain and understand the accuracy of the data is key. So let's talk for a minute about the expansion of industries and the use cases for predictive analytics. The increasing pressure to maintain competitive advantage, to drive increased revenue, to mitigate risk, optimize pricing strategies, to conduct one-on-one marketing, or just generally leverage data-driven decision-making across almost every functional area has led to a rapid expansion of predictive analytics across almost every industry and every functional use case. While banking and financial services continues to be the biggest user of predictive analytics, other industries such as healthcare, manufacturing, and sports are growing in excess of 38% annually. Predictive analytics have now been deployed across almost every functional discipline of today's modern businesses, including customer analytics, risk management, workforce and HR analytics, supply chain, claim analytics, content analytics, and pricing, just to name a few. This is very exciting for a firm like ours, as we constantly get to see how clients from multiple industries are identifying new applications within their organization to use our tools and solutions. A client that may have originally purchased our software to perform customer analytics has now broadened the use of the software to include price optimization, HR applications, and credit risk. In response to the first two trends, we are seeing an increase and proliferation of analytics platforms, tools, and solutions. The sheer volume of vendors and tool options for advanced analytics currently in the market can be daunting to buyers. As the graphic suggests, everybody is cooking up something different. Almost every day there are new entrants into the space with new point solutions targeted to specific industries and or specific use cases. There are multiple big data platforms. There are open source software platforms. There are new tools and solutions popping up every day that address just about any specific use case, such as workforce analytics, fraud analytics, or churn analytics for telco, for instance. Companies need to assess whether or not they require a niche industry or functional platform to support a very narrow business need, or whether a platform that supports a multitude of modeling techniques, data formats, and deployment options that can be used across multiple functions better suits their needs. So let's talk for a minute about some of the functionality that a company should consider when selecting a predictive analytics platform to help meet some of the challenges we've just discussed. To manage large volumes of data, companies may want to consider a vendor that offers in-database analytic capabilities. The in-database option provides an efficient and cost-effective way for organizations to enhance their data exploration capabilities through an optimized analytical processing environment directly within the database. It also has the inherent security benefits that CIOs love. By utilizing in-database drivers, analysts can build models within enterprise data warehouses such as Netezza, Teradata, Oracle, and Microsoft APS. Also, vendors now offering direct connections to Hadoop. Seeing as data is streamed from a variety of sources, it is important for predictive analytic tools to be able to support both structured and unstructured data that arrives in various formats. A well-rounded predictive analytics platform should also be able to import data from sources like SAS, SPSS, and R, as well as these unstructured DEX sources. For example, if you are dealing with unstructured data feeds such as company email, Twitter feeds, or legal documents, all text but all very different formats, a natural language processing engine requires interpretation of each of these forms. It needs to be able to interpret slang and shorthand for social media while also being able to interpret industry jargon for a legal document. For example, retailers and manufacturers with thousands of products and parts with unique characteristics, each with highly uncertain and variable data structures, must be able to conduct data set level transformations and optimal binning to manage these data sets with a high degree of variety. Furthermore, tools with high degrees of visualization to allow you to explore and understand highly complex and large data sets will save time and help reduce errors. When it comes to veracity, these data exploration, profiling, and visualization tools are also important to help ascertain the veracity of the various data sources, their completeness, their consistency, and the accuracy of that data. And lastly, as data continues to come at us with increasing velocity, there are many business applications that require timely decision-making and speed to action. In customer service and sales centers and online applications, sales and marketing models will be evolving from batch scoring to real-time data processing. Businesses now are looking to solutions that have real-time scoring engines that can easily integrate into their business processes. And finally, there's a well-known coming shortage of experienced data scientists with the skills required to operate many of the advanced analytics tools on the market today. According to McKinsey's research, by 2018, the United States will experience a shortage between 150,000 to 190,000 skilled data scientists. In addition, there will be a shortage of about 1.5 million managers and analysts who are capable of reaping actionable insights from the big data deluge. According to Markets and Markets, again, the projected demand for analytical talent on a global basis will be more than 50% greater than the projected supply in 2018. Expert data scientists will remain scarce in the coming years. Gartner has coined the term citizen data scientists to reflect a new breed of analyst who combines the skills of traditional business analysts with some of the expertise of expert statisticians. Their rise will be aided by the democratization of some of the sophisticated analytical tools, by specialized solutions, and by the increase of machine learning capabilities that will help overcome this shortage in the future. Because of the proliferation of tools that are easier to use, the advanced data scientists with the PhD will not always be required. Organizations that are able to evolve internal staff with degrees in mathematics, stats, and engineering into analytics talents or citizen data scientists will be able to complement those skilled data scientists with other resources as well to meet the talent shortage. According to Gartner research, by 2017, growth rates in citizen data scientists will actually outpace the growth in highly skilled data scientists by a factor of 5. So now let's take another polling question here and just ask, what is the major struggle today in terms of advanced analytics applications that you might be working with inside of your firm? Is it usability? Is it integration? Affordability or versatility, or all of the above? So we'll take a moment to ask you to submit your responses. Okay, let's see what the consensus is. All of the above. Not surprising. Good. So let's talk for a few minutes about what some of these characteristics entail and our point of view on this. We've talked about some of the requirements that predictive analytics tools and platforms need to be able to process and analyze big data. So now let's shift focus to what these tools need to do in order to be accessible to users of all skill levels. First is ease of use. Complexity of the software increases the learning curve and oftentimes contributes to the lack of maximum software usability. Having an easy-to-use graphical user interface with drag and drop and wizard-driven features as well as automated functions within the software can contribute to significant productivity gain. Second, this needs to be easy to integrate into the business environment. So certain predictive analytic tools are cumbersome to integrate into business processes. They lack smooth transition and most of all can result in additional overhead costs to deploy. To be effective and scalable, analytics tools should be able to support multiple data sources, multiple programming languages, and multiple methods of deployment. Predictive analytic platforms should be able to accommodate a variety of analyst user skill sets as well. For example, users that code in R or the language of SAS or SQL. Applications that contain functions catering to users of many skill levels increase departmental collaboration, which in turn can decrease project turnaround times and avoid loss of project momentum. Also, companies must often invest in multiple tools to perform several required analytics tasks. Having to import and export between various analytics environments hinders the effectiveness of the analysis process. Overall, it is easier to integrate a single solution for all predictive analytics needs. Versatility. To drive business value, predictive models must be deployed into the business processes they support. Ideally, they will support multiple use cases and multiple deployment options. Batch processing for certain functions, real-time for others, for example. And finally, they must be affordable. As companies continue to search for solid use cases for predictive analytics and big data, they need a scalable infrastructure. What is the value for money spent? Will the tools scale across the business and support usage across a wide range of skill sets, or will it be constrained by the availability of highly skilled but short-supply data scientists? This brings us to the new Angus data science platform. With the addition of new features and functionality, we are now able to offer you the next level data science platform for data preparation, predictive modeling, and deployment. Angus's data science platform caters to users of all skill levels and helps in the processing and analysis of big data and analytics in general. It overcomes the requirement of purchasing separate applications to accommodate numerous analytics needs and shortens the learning curve without increasing costs and resources. The Angus data science platform is able to address big data needs within database drivers and real-time scoring as mentioned earlier, and provides users with access to our easy-to-use predictive and prescriptive modeling tools such as decision trees and strategy trees that help you make predictions about the future, as well as recommend the best course of action for any pre-specified outcome. Our data preparation functionality has also been dramatically enhanced with the launch of KnowledgeCORE, an advanced data mining and predictive analytics platform, which provides you with the ability to custom code in the language of SAS, R, and SQL, or to use pre-built functional nodes to automate coding for commonly used language of SAS functions. As a side note, these common functions found in the language of SAS are made possible through Angus's recent OEM partnership with World Programming Limited, a data science innovator who was recently recognized by Gartner in the Cool Vendors in Data Science 2014 report. Angus's data science platform addresses all of the elements of the data mining process, including data understanding, data prep, model development and evaluation, multiple deployment options, and finally business understanding. We found that this integrated platform can provide significant benefits to the organization. Specifically, increased efficiencies of the overall data mining process by more than 40% with the ease of use, versatility, and automation of our data science platform. Reducing coding time by more than 30% with the use of pre-built language of SAS functional nodes. Elimination of coding errors via automated code creation. It also enables users to custom code in 3 languages, the language of SAS, SQL, and R. And finally, it allows users to stay in a single platform without having to export models to other environments. Before I pass the presentation over to Michael, we have one final poll question on the types of predictive analytics tools that you may be using today. So if you could take a minute and just respond as to which of these tools you may be using today. we'd appreciate it. And let's go ahead and take a look. Oh, there seems to be the winner here. Interesting. Good. Well, thank you for that feedback. With that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Michael Vallely, a senior data scientist here at Angus, who will take you through a quick demo of our new data science platform and KnowledgeCORE offering. So with that, Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much, Bill. Hello, everybody, and thanks for your attendance. My name is Michael Vallely, and I'll be taking you through the demonstration today. So what I want to speak about, first of all, is the most recognizable aspect to the software, and that's our workflow. And as you can see, a workflow here is just a visual representation of the component parts within any data mining project. So you can see here we have imports, we have data transformations, we have partitioning, model development, excuse me, validation, as well as model code creation. Now I should say you can add comments to this very, very easily, and so it speaks to an audit trail, as well as if you create something and then you leave it and come back to it after a couple of months, it should be quite straightforward to be able to understand the points and the processes that you took to get to your data or to complete your project. I should say, if things get too complex, you can right-click and create new workflows very, very easily, as you can see here. So we can split the processing up, and as you can see, I have a stream here where I've split up the import and data preparation to the modeling and validation, as well as to the deployment. And I can communicate model results and data sets throughout each of these workflows, so you can create as many of them as you'd like and have really complex processes with a very, very easy to follow audit trail. If I create a new project just to illustrate the different aspects that we can use to build these workflows, you can see it creates an empty canvas. And I build these workflows using these functional nodes. And the nodes are found in palettes on the left-hand side here. And you can see there's quite an extensive array of palettes. I'll just speak about them in general terms. First of all, we can connect pretty much to anything that's out there. So this addresses the variety of the data sources that could potentially exist. You can connect simultaneously to flat files, for example, text. We can also connect to proprietary file formats, Excel, SAS, SPSS, R, and we also have ODBC connections. So you can connect to big data residing on servers and any databases really that use the ODBC protocol, including Hadoop, and it's just a matter of dragging the ODBC node onto the canvas. We extend our processing capabilities for big data using the in-database node. And this pushes processing, profiling, and modeling back to the database. And it's available for applications such as Oracle, Netezza, Teradata, Microsoft SQL Server, and also Microsoft SQL Server APS, formerly known as PDW. The Angus platform additionally includes data transformation capabilities. We have modeling, and you'll notice that these are all color-coded just to distinguish the group that they belong to. We also have model evaluation, deployment capabilities. Now, just to linger here, we can deploy code, automatically generated code for a multitude of different modeling types in SQL, the language of SAS, XML, PMML, and of course I'm sure that people have been requested to explain a model in plain English, so we can generate that code automatically from our deployment capabilities. We also have data export, and this mirrors our import capabilities, so you can export to a range of different file formats, as well as exporting and communicating with databases. We also have an additional 5 nodes here, which I'm going to speak about in relation to our integration. But prior to getting into that, I just want to take it through a couple of steps in terms of building a workflow. It's simply a matter of dragging and dropping the nodes onto the canvas, and here I'm using an import, just in the interests, I suppose, of ensuring I don't have to set up any complex connections. I'm connecting to a flat file that's on my computer. But I should say, in relation to addressing the veracity of your data, you have a whole range of streamlined profiling capabilities, so you can assess the data and the data integrity with ease using this functionality. So in terms of building your process flows, I've imported some information. I can get charting representations. I can look at the data. I can also modify it. So if I wanted to create any new variables, I can easily drag a node, a variable transformations onto the canvas. And just to easily show this, you can type SQL code in the expression area, but we can also create the SQL code for common transformations. And here I'll just do something very quickly, just to show you the ease that you can process and generate these representations. I'm collapsing categories together. You can see I'm putting together husband and wife into a new category called married. And I'm joining everybody else together into a new category called other. And if I click finish, you can see it writes the code for me automatically. And of course, if we click run, it creates the new file. And of course, just to see that we can actually generate in-depth code automatically for those processes, you can see it's generated here on the right-hand side. Embedded here is my SQL code for the transformation, but of course it's surrounded by a proc SQL, meaning that it will work on a SAS platform as well as an SQL platform. So you can use these nodes to drag and drop onto the canvas to build up something that might get as complex as the stream that you see here. Now when you do develop your models, I should say that we do have straightforward configuration capabilities to upload those models into the cloud, so to deploy them in real time. And as you can see, the dialog here gives you really simple configuration options. There's no complexity associated with it. So we can leverage those models very swiftly and easily. Okay, I want to speak about our integration capabilities. That's just an overview of what we offer in the visual design of our platform. Angus have traditionally sat in the modeling space, with users deferring to other environments such as SAS and SQL to perform the data preparation and heavy lifting steps leading to the creation of a file for modeling. Also, a lot of people now have R programming skills, and they may defer to using R for the same things. With the release of KnowledgeCORE, we've broadened our reach to integrate with other programming languages, providing a single environment to program in the languages of SAS, SQL, and R, and access extended and widespread data preparation, modeling, and charting functionality. So we've included these 5 additional palettes as I pointed to previously. So these contain the extensive array of data prep, modeling, charting, and statistical capabilities. First of all, if I look at the R integration, this palette contains the R node, and it provides easy access to programming in the language of R. The integrated dialog is easy to access, and you can program directly in R here. So if your organization has users with R skills, we provide a means to leverage and apply those in a single platform. And just to illustrate that to a greater degree, I have a workflow here which imports a file, does some transformations, creates partitions, creates a decision tree model that's our native patented decision tree, but we're also using the R code node. And here I'm running a linear discriminant analysis. So I open it up, you can see quite straightforward in terms of the programming, and it's identical to the way that you would program normally in R. I'm running a model and I'm assessing the models, but I'm also using another R code node down here to apply some additional questioning really of the data. So I'm generating some additional modeling to create a report based on the model results, should I say. And so what we have here is the ability to access and avail of our Angus native technology and program the language of SAS in a single environment. So that steps us more towards this total integration platform. The language of SAS integration is provided through 4 additional palettes, as you can see down here. These include a series of nodes, again with drag and drop functionality, that automatically generate the language of SAS code for common processes and transformations. So let's just take a brief look at them. The Wps Integration Palette provides a series of nodes for linking to file formats, including SAS and WPS, and also contains the generic code node. And this enables us to program directly in the language of SAS, so free code basically. If you don't like using menu systems, you can free code within here. The Data Preparation Palette provides a host of common data preparation features, including, as you can see, appending, merging. We have aggregates and deduplicates. We also have transpose, standardize, the ability to list data, create formats, format from data sets, etc., etc. Nodes in the statistic palette enable exploration and reporting, for example using summary tables, table analysis, summary statistics. We have modeling capabilities such as t-tests, ANOVAs, GLM, regressions. We have ARIMA, of course, forecasting capabilities. We also have segmentation in terms of clustering, variable reduction and factor analysis and principal component analysis, as well as having the ability to rank. And also there's a scoring node which corresponds to each modeling capability, as you can see here, linear regression and linear regression scoring. So we also have charts, and these give you an array of commonly found charts. And these 5 nodes, the R node and the integration nodes for languages SAS, provide total integration, meaning one platform for programming in the languages of SAS, SQL and R, so no need to use multiple environments. Okay, so to illustrate the features, what I'm going to do is again create a new project. And just to begin with, what I'm going to do is go through, I suppose, a common set of data processing steps. And what I mean by that is what really are the things that we encounter when we're assessing or going through a processing environment. Well, in general, what you'll want to do is access information that's on a number of different platforms, as you can see here. So I'm going to import and access information that's disparate, create one file that appends all of the records together, then get one record for each unique ID or combination of IDs, and then enrich that detail with maybe demographics. And this is a common data processing set of steps. So let's see how we can do that in this platform. So as I said, I'm going to start with a newly created workstream. What I'm going to do is drag in a node. And you can see here that it's simple to point it towards the files that you have to aggregate or that you want to put together. And here I'm just going to look at importing 3 files. They're in the SAS7b format and we can easily link to them. So while I'm looking for this, I'm just going to try and keep talking so that it fills up the space. However, the point is that we have easy configuration options here to be able to access those files. So once we've that done, you can organize them nicely on the space here. And what I want to do is append them together. So I'm going to drag my append node and connect all of these files to my append. Now if I look at the append node, you can see that it lists all of the files that I want to append together, and by default it's going to append all fields. If you wanted to match fields, because maybe the fields in this file are the same but named differently as the fields in this file, you can easily do that using a mapping capability which gives you a drag and drop functionality. The beauty of something like this is that it generates the code for you automatically, as you can see here. So it's error-free code. And given the time that it would take to generate something like this, there's an efficiency gain, not only in terms of the automatic creation of the code, the audit functionality, but also you don't have to spend time debugging it. You know it's going to work. And of course, we can access and look at this file quite easily. The next point in the process then is to generate an aggregated representation of this file. So what I'm going to do here is use the summary tables node to generate that aggregation. And again, what we have is drag and drop functionality. As you can see here, I'm going to use claim ID. I'm going to aggregate by that, create a unique field or a unique row for every claim ID. And I want to generate some, say, summaries based on a specific variable. So it'll default to the sum, but you can select any one of a number of statistics you want, and it'll create a different column for each of these. If I look at the code, again, note that it's going to create it automatically, so we don't have to worry about processing and, of course, debugging. It's created straightforwardly and automatically. Again, we can click Run. Sorry, it will default. So if I click Run, you can see that it creates the output that I want. And of course, we can build this up over time to generate all of the processes that you see here. And this is one, as any good chef will have done, that I have built earlier. So you can see I'm doing my appending. I'm doing my aggregation of the results, and then I'm importing another file, sorting it and deduplicating it. And again, just to have a look at this, you can see drag and drop functionality and automatic code creation. And then merging the results to get down to my final data mining view. So this is the data that I get to as a result of all of these processes. Again, you can see that these are displayed visually. They're drag and drop functionality. And you can access the language of SAS code for all of these processes very, very easily. It's written for you automatically. So we've seen the workflows and the drag and drop functionality, the menu-driven wizards, and the automatic code creation. Is there anything else? And of course the answer is yes. Previously I spoke about the generic code node. As you can see, we have it here in the Wps Integration Palette. To access it, you can simply drag and drop it onto the canvas. Now what this code enables you to do is this node enables you to type code directly in the language of SAS. So if you don't like using the drag and drop menus, you can easily avail of this functionality. And just to illustrate, you can see it gives me an editor functionality when I open it up with a canvas area where I can type code directly. So you could type whatever code that you want, etc., etc. And I'm not going to do that in the interest of time. However, you can see what I have done here is this data mining view. I want to do some further processing on this. And so I'm doing a simple transformation on that. And of course what I'm doing is running that and creating this output file. So it's a simple transformation. Now to add to being able to freely write code, any existing code and macros that you have can be copied and pasted into the node and of course leveraged. Now to illustrate that, what I'm going to do is go into the append that I have here, and let's say that this is code that you had written somewhere. I'm going to create a new empty workflow, and I'll drag in the generic code node. So I can copy and paste my code into here. I'm going to change the name of the file that I'm going to create because it already exists. And you can, of course, just click Run. Let's try that again and give it a different name. Okay. And if I click Run, you can see that it creates that file. So the point is that you can leverage already existing code and macros, and simply by copying and pasting them into the generic code node, or of course availing of the drag and drop functionality. Now, one final aspect, and probably the icing on the cake, is the additional capability to code in SQL. And this will provide a totally integrated platform. So again, if I have a look at this, I'm using my generic code node to specify the options. But what we should be able to see here is that we have the proc SQL, and we're using this within the generic code node. And that means that I can program in the language of SQL within the generic code node. You can see I have a create table statement. I'm selecting all fields and I'm generating a transformation. So the point here is that we're offering a platform that provides total integration. You don't have to close this down if you want to process in another language, nor do you have to open up another platform. You can do it all in the one space using either the menu-driven and drag and drop capabilities, or you can defer to freely writing code within the generic code node. Okay, so I've spoken about the ability to code in those three languages, SAS, the language of SAS, SQL and R, and use the term total integration, referring to one integrated platform to perform data preparation, profiling, modeling and deployment. So to extend the example that we had seen previously, where I have my data preparation performed here. As I spoke about, we can create multiple workflows. And so what I've done here is I've created a modeling workflow. So I don't want to get things too cluttered. So I'm sending the data mining view that I've created, which of course is here, to my modeling view. And you can see here I'm creating a logistic regression using the language of SAS. I'm creating a decision tree, that's a patented decision tree using our own native technology. And I'm using R to program a linear discriminant analysis. And as you can see, the programming for these and the logistic regression can be easily accessed, and of course, again, error-free. So I can generate the results from those three models, and I can assess them simultaneously using our analyzer. Now this is a software that generates 6 different graphs that can be used to assess any model. And here I'm assessing all of those 3 models, one generated with the language of SAS, another generated with R, and another generated with our own inherent technology. If you hover over any of these, you can see it focuses that specific model and fades the other to the background. And what we can see here with this curve and across the lift chart, the Kolmogorov-Smirnov and the ROC chart with the associated AUC and Gini index statistic is that the Angus patented decision tree is outperforming the linear discriminant analysis of R and the logistic regression from the language of SAS. Okay, and to complete the total integration, what you want to do then is deploy these. So what I have done is I've sent the results of all of those models into our deployment stream. And here what I'm doing with the decision tree is I'm creating the code in each of these three languages. First of all, the SQL code. And notice the extensiveness associated with this code. It's easy to do. It's a matter of dragging and dropping the node from its associated palette onto the canvas, opening it up and clicking run. I can do that as well for the language of SAS. As you can see, it's quite a large data step. Again, error-free and will run on any platform that accepts that code in an error-free format. And of course, any code that we generate in the language of SAS for any model is generated in the form of a macro. So all you need to do to deploy it is apply the input and the output data sets. We've also got English. Now what is this? Well, I'm sure you've been asked from time to time when you've shown somebody a model, can you give me that in plain English? And here are the answers. Yes, we can. And as you can see, this gives me all of the rules for each of the segments in the model. And it's saying, well, if, for example, lifetime value is equal to this, then there is this sort of a chance that the outcome will be no, and this sort of a chance that the outcome will be yes. So it will go through the segmentation within a specific tree or any model and give you the rules or the results of that model in easy to digest English. Okay, so what I have done is I've combined the results of all of these three models and I've leveraged them in what we call a strategy tree. So if I open the view, I've created two of these here. I've taken the results of the models. I've added some KPIs, and you can see that these are the model propensity scores. So looking at the overall average propensity. And here I've split based on a couple of variables, and I've added these final treatments. So the point is I've combined the results of all of these models into what we refer to as a strategy tree. And by the way, I've built this strategy tree and there is no dependent variable in it. I have just KPIs. So it's a forced segmentation. But if I had chosen to, I could also leverage a dependent variable and use that as the focus and include the KPIs to accompany that to more intelligently assess a more appropriate treatment to be able to apply to each of the segments I have created. I should say that finally, if I go back to my data preparation capability and I select the entirety of the nodes and right click, you can easily see that not only do we have a visual description of each of the components and we use drag and drop functionality to create those, you can see that now I can access the entirety of the language of SAS code in one page for all of those processes. And of course, that really reflects again the integrability of our of our platform, not only with our native technology, but also with the languages of SAS, SQL, and of course R. So that's a whirlwind through our platform, and an illustration of our integration capabilities, a single environment to prepare, profile, create and deploy models efficiently and with ease in one single platform, providing total integration. So I'll hand it back to you, Bill.
Michael, thank you for the excellent demo and for taking the audience through how this platform helps address many of the big data challenges we've outlined earlier in this discussion. Before we open it up for questions from the audience, I just wanted to share with you some of the clients that Angus works with on a global basis today. Our experience with them and their challenges in deploying predictive analytics continues to influence our product map and led to our recent launch of KnowledgeCORE. We've had the privilege of working with some of the largest global organizations on the development and deployment of predictive analytics across a number of industries and use cases. I'm going to turn it back over to Tim now, who will help facilitate some questions and answers. Thanks again for your time today, and please do not hesitate to contact us if there are any additional follow-up questions. Tim, back to you.
Great. Thank you, both Michael and Bill. Great presentation, and my hat's off to you, Michael, for a wonderful live demo there. So as Bill just said, we're at the Q&A portion. This slide that you see up now has the contact information for both Michael and Bill. You can take that down and contact them following today's presentation if you would like to get some more detail beyond what we're going to be discussing during the Q&A today. So the first question is, suppose I'm fluent in R and Python, would I benefit by going to the KnowledgeCORE? I'm going to let you decide if that's a Michael question or Bill.
Yeah, I can address that one. So if you are fluent in R, certainly you would benefit from using this platform, because not only can you avail of the R capabilities, but you can also avail of the native functionality. So you can, as I had shown here, you can have a couple of streams, or a stream that embeds and integrates seamlessly the technology of R and of course the technology of Angus. So let me just find this because I have quite a few different streams open here. You can see here that I have embedded an R code node within a workflow. So I'm developing a native model, which is our decision tree, and of course you can see that I'm using my R code to develop a linear discriminant analysis. Now that's developing a model. What if you wanted to do some reporting? Well, you can see I have another R code node down here, and I'm using that to do some reporting on the results of the model. So if you do have R skills, what I would say is a platform like this would benefit you, because you can also extend your understanding of other languages, specifically the language of SAS, which is very prominent in terms of data processing. And be able to access an easy method to skill up in terms of the complexity associated with that, using simple drag and drop capabilities to set up some very, very complex aspects.
A very good answer to that question, Michael. The next question, you did just touch on reports, and this question deals with that. What kind of reports and or visualizations can a user generate directly from KnowledgeCORE?
Well, there's a number of different types of reports that can be created. Just to look at the language of SAS capabilities first, something that I didn't point out here was within the processing that we initiated previously, after I appended all of the results together, maybe I wanted to do a t-test, and you can see here I've generated some HTML output which reflects the results of that t-test. And of course that is reporting. Further reporting that can be conducted, if we look back, we should be able to easily see that I've created a summary table. So this is a small summary table report. It uses 3 variables, but you could extend this and use any one of the capabilities to generate more extensive reports. For example, using let me find these summary tables, the table analysis, and of course the summary statistics. Now I should also say that we also have our inherent capabilities for profiling data sets. So if you do want to generate additional reports, for example, you want to generate something that gives you the characteristic differences between the dependent variable across all other variables, can we do that? Well, we certainly can. And the additional aspect associated with this is not only can you generate some highly visual representations, you can access the data in the background, and you can copy all of the information that lies behind using a one-click export to Excel, and that's available for all of the reporting functionality, the overview report, the segment viewer, cross tabulations, characteristic analysis, all of the profiling capabilities that you can see here. And of course they complement the language of SAS reporting capabilities available through the integration nodes.
Very good. I love that you're using a live demo to answer that question. So again, hats off to you. The next question is, are there any limitations of the size of data sets that Angus can handle?
Not really. It's a 64-bit piece of software, so we generally suggest an upper limit of about 4 billion. So from that perspective, there isn't really any limitations as such, and it really is as competent as any other enterprise piece of software that you will find out there. Okay,
very good. Next question is it possible to integrate KnowledgeCORE with SAS Grid, AWS, and something like Azure ML?
That's something that's certainly on our roadmap, and certainly it will be coming out, I'm sure, in the future.
Okay. Another question is, what file formats can you import into KnowledgeCORE?
So just to reiterate what we've spoken about in terms of the import capabilities, you can see here that in the import palette we can access information that's in flat files, so text, and that's .txt, .tab, and any text file formats, flat files basically. We have proprietary file formats, so you can access information in Excel, we can access information that's in SAS, SPSS, and R files. We also have ODBC connections, so we can communicate with any database that understands the ODBC protocol. And also we have in-database capabilities. So what I'm trying to say really in summary is that we can connect to pretty much anything that's out there. So you won't have any trouble accessing any type of file format or database using this technology.
Excellent. So the next question is, can you go into more detail in terms of what language of SAS procedures are supported?
Well, pretty much 95% of the language of SAS procedures that you do find or are available within the platform that's out there will be found within this technology. We have further detail on our website, so I couldn't go through an exhaustive list at the moment because we don't have the time, but if you would like to visit our website, and maybe we can push this link out to people, but it details all of the SAS procedures, but I can say without a shadow of a doubt we currently support in excess of 95% of those.
Okay. That sounds great. Let's see. The next question is, what is the strategy tree?
Okay, so that's a good question. The strategy tree is a technology that we have developed and it's patent pending. So in terms of the strategy tree capability, what we're doing is leveraging the results of a model. So I should say that in general what people do is they build a model and they create code for that model, something like you have here. And you deploy that code maybe against a database. And then you potentially add additional KPIs to that database, and you'd slice and dice the results to assess the most important or the treatment that should be assigned. So we give you a visual way to be able to do that in a process environment called a strategy tree. So the strategy tree can take the results of a model, as you can see here, where we have a propensity model. It can add additional measures, which you would do after you score back a database, but you do that blindly, whereas here you can see exactly what measures you want to add, and you can easily program them very easily. And of course, we can assess the best or more intelligent treatment or a strategy for specific segments, not only based on the propensity scores, but also on the KPI values. So you can see here RFI1, a request for information. These are two different levels. We're sending this group to an agent. The point is you can easily add those treatments and add additional treatments. And this is something that you would do blindly, whereas we give you the ability to visualize the process, add the KPIs, and more intelligently assign the treatments.
Very good. Okay. The next question is, it seems like everything presented so far is finished workflow/process. When we are building up models, how does Angus provide an in-process diagnostic/testing?
Okay, there's a number of ways in which we can address that. So if you're, for example, generating a model, and one way I'd interpret this is if I have a model and I want to modify something in that model and test what's the difference between the modification and the model I've just developed, you can easily do that with the analyzer. So here I've developed a decision tree, for example, and what I'm going to do is just go into this decision tree and let's modify it a little more. I'll just choose another fine split. Nothing going on there. I'll choose another one here. So actually let's make a modification. Let's say I erase this child node and I erase this child node. Now what you want to do is say, well, what impact do these modifications have on the overall results? Well, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a model instance. And so this is another version of a model. So I've created this baseline model. I wanted to modify it and see, well, what impact will the changes have? I can easily add the results onto the analyzer. Bear with me a second. What I'm going to do is validate this first. So what I'm going to do is use this model to score this set of data, and then I'm going to validate that. So let me just call this version 2 so I can distinguish it very, very easily. It'll create these scoring fields in this new data set, and what I can easily do then is add the results onto the analyzer here. So if I double click, you'll see that there's an additional tab here called V2. I'm going to select the dependent variable, the predicted value, and the prediction. And let's see how well it compares. So that modification in terms of the results of the model and its performance, how well is it doing? You can see it's added here as a yellow line. You can see that it's not performing as well. That's hardly surprising given we removed elements of the model. But the point is that you can apply a change and assess this. And I would say the easiest way to do that is to look at your charts, the cumulative lift, the lift chart, your Kolmogorov-Smirnov chart, and the ROC chart with the associated AUC and Gini index statistics. So the curve looks nice, but not as well, or not as performing as well as the decision tree that we had previously with a higher AUC statistic.
Okay, very good. Thank you for all that detail. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and that's going to have to be our last question. We had a lot of questions come in. I want to make sure that the audience and everybody that has asked a question, rest assured, all of the questions that weren't answered that came in, we're sending to Michael and Bill and Angus, and they will be getting back to you directly so that everything is explained to you. And if you have other questions you want to ask, you can certainly reach out to them directly. I have just a few quick announcements to make. To please mark your calendars for March 24th and our next Data Science Central webinar, Lake, Reservoirs, and Swamps, a Data Science and Engineering Perspective, sponsored by Think Big, which is a part of Teradata. Also, as I mentioned, this event has been taped and will be made available later on this afternoon at datasciencecentral.com. This brings our webinar to a close. I want to thank our audience for their attendance and their questions. I also want to thank Angus for their sponsorship and our panelists, Bill and Michael, for their insight into today's topic. Great presentation, wonderful again. My name is Tim Madison, and it's been a pleasure being your host for today's event. I look forward to seeing you all again on March 24th. Good day.